At the White House with the latest on the withdrawal deadline and why the Taliban are calling any extension a red line.
And a frantic search operation is underway in Tennessee after record-breaking rain and a devastating flood. Also, what some schools are doing to get more bus drivers behind the wheel.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
The Taliban says American forces staying beyond the August 31st deadline is a red line for them. This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Tanya Bach. Topping our first 7 minutes, the U.S. and its allies have evacuated more than 20,000 people out of Afghanistan in the last 24 hours. But time is running out to make sure that every American and Afghan ally makes it safely out of the country. Skylar Henry has the latest from the White House.
President Biden set the August 31st deadline for the U.S. to complete its withdrawal from Afghanistan. But there are still tens of thousands of Americans and Afghan allies still to be evacuated.
We are still driving towards the end of the month. That's where we are now. And if and when there's any change to that, we'll certainly, make it clear to the American people.
The president held a virtual meeting with G7 allies. Britain and France are among those pushing for more time to finish evacuating their citizens.
We have to plan on the 31st of August being the last moment. Every day we get after that would be a big bonus.
CBS News has confirmed that CIA Director William Burns met secretly in Kabul with the Taliban's de facto leader Abdul Ghani Bardar. A Taliban spokesperson told CBS News' Roxana Saberi that U.S. forces staying beyond the 31st would be a, quote, red line.
It is a violation of the commitment that President Biden has made.
The Taliban says it's no longer allowing Afghan citizens to go to the Kabul airport to try to leave the country.
We need to ensure that there is facilitated passage to the airport for American citizens, SIVs, third country nationals, and so forth. We'll continue those conversations with them. Ultimately, it will be the president's decision how this proceeds, no one else's.
The U.S. has stepped up the number of flights out of Kabul in an attempt to evacuate as many as possible ahead of the deadline.
Pentagon says about one flight is leaving out of Kabul every 45 minutes. The U.S. has also designated 4 different military bases in the U.S. to house evacuees once they reach America. Well, there's no doubt we're finishing up August on a hot note. Michael Aislip joins us with the first look at the forecast.
1 week left and there is no reprieve. And I tell you what, a little cloud cover wouldn't hurt. But as we take a live look outside of Television City, that sun just blaring down. Now, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful out, but it is already hot. Here we are at the noon hour, and we got 91 in Joplin, Neodesha, and Parsons. Throw Carthage in at 91 as well. Grove has had a 22-degree bump up from where we were at about 6 o'clock this morning, all the way up to 92 degrees. Now, Fort Scott, Nevada, hanging in there at 88, if that's of any consolation to you. We've got the heat advisories running all the way until Thursday. And, of course, the Skywatch Storm Tracker on the clean side. As a matter of fact, remember yesterday we even had a little rain in northern Kansas. Well, today, you've got to run all the way up to northern Iowa through Minnesota to find the closest precipitation to us. Now, humidity really hasn't been too bad. We've dropped all the way to 33%, but we factor in the sunshine and also the south wind coming in at 10 to 15 miles per hour, and that's why it's feeling like it's already close to 100. Actual temperatures for this afternoon going to range in between, say, 96, 97 degrees, and even though the cloud cover helped last week, we are not going to get any relief from it, whether it be today or even into Wednesday. Look at that, right back at it into the high 90s for Wednesday. Might as well throw Thursday in there as well. Now, finally, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, not only do we have a little cloud cover, but also, too, instability grows, and we get those chances for some afternoon and evening thunderstorm activity. Not a big deal, but I'll tell you what, does help us out temperature-wise, especially during the afternoon hours.
All right, that's true. We need that cloud cover. Thanks, Michael. Well, there is a frantic search operation underway in Tennessee after record-breaking rain and a devastating flood. At least 22 people are dead and many more missing. 17 inches of rain fell in just 24 hours in Waverly, Tennessee. Floodwaters ripped homes from their foundations and submerged cars for miles. 8 feet of water flooded one family home. The body of the father was found a mile away. Survivors made their way to building rooftops to be rescued by a helicopter. More than 20 victims have been found dead and many more are still missing. Among the dead, newborn twins. After the FDA gives full approval to the Pfizer vaccine for Americans 16 and up, many employers and universities started issuing ultimatums, telling workers and students if they don't get the vaccine, they cannot return in person. Pentagon is moving ahead with a vaccination requirement for all active duty service members. New York City Public Schools mandated at least one shot for all staff by September 27th, and United Airlines, which already announced a vaccine mandate, says its staff must be fully vaccinated by the same date. Well, Cox Health also moved to require COVID-19 vaccinations for its employees. Hospital officials say the decision was led by the health system's physician leaders and was due in part to the FDA's full authorization of the Pfizer vaccine. CEO Steve Edwards says, quote, "This decision is ultimately led by science, which has shown us that vaccinations are the way we can end this pandemic." To date, nearly 70% of Cox Health employees are already vaccinated against COVID-19, as well as more than 90% of physicians. That's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at noon, a nationwide school bus driver shortage adds to parents' back-to-school concerns. And later, we're making shortcut fruit crepes in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. The pandemic has created another concern for parents as their kids go back to school, figuring out how to get them there. There's a nationwide school bus driver shortage estimated in the tens of thousands, and now districts and parents are scrambling to make up the difference. CBS's Errol Barnett reports from Temple Hills, Maryland.
I'll keep saying it till the cows come home. We need more drivers.
In Lee County, Florida, parents are being told to expect significant school bus delays for the foreseeable future. And in Chesterfield, Virginia, a request for parents.
We're asking you to please drive your child to school.
One charter school in Delaware is offering $700 per student for parents who bring them in. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh Public Schools told parents nearly 800 kids will have to walk.
My 6-year-old's not going to walk here, even with a group of people.
It is a patchwork of policies stemming from a lack of new bus drivers.
It has always been an issue. The difference is right now, the numbers are probably double what they normally would be at this time of year or more in terms of our need.
RUDOLPH Saunders oversees transportation for the more than 130,000 students in Prince George's County, Maryland.
Puts us in a situation where you might have to condense a route by adding 2 routes on the same bus, so there's more kids on the bus.
Which is why 4-figure cash incentives are emerging. In Atlanta, $1,000 bonuses are on the table for new hires, while Baltimore City is willing to give 3 times as much. The shortage is so dire in Montana, Helena Public Schools are offering a $4,000 bonus. The president of NAPT, which represents school bus drivers, says the pandemic is partly to blame, a health risk for the often older drivers.
Some of them may be afraid to get on the bus because of COVID, and the students that may or may not have been vaccinated.
This is easier than driving your car.
Why is that?
You can see everything.
Bus driving instructor Johnny Walker trains new drivers for Prince George's County Schools.
That's the most important job in the system, because without getting those kids to school and getting those kids to school on time, they're missing education.
Even if there were an influx of applicants today, it would take roughly 6 to 8 weeks to train them up to get their CDL, their commercial driver's license. So that would mean October. Classes here in Prince George's County resume next month. Errol Barnett, CBS News, Temple Hills, Maryland.
Still to come on the KOAM News at noon, Mr. Food.
Today's recipe might not inspire you to speak French, but it will have you saying, ooh la la. Stick around. You'll see what I mean.
First, Michael Hayslip returns with your not so ooh la la forecast.
A little bit of breaking news coming out. We'll get to our weather almanac here in just a little second, but August 24th will also be known as the day Charlie Watts died. The news coming out just a little bit after the noon hour. Charlie Watts, 80 years old, of course, the legendary drummer for the Rolling Stones, part of the original group with Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, Brian Jones. And great story goes that the three of them actually thought Charlie was too good to stay with the band. They did not expect Charlie Watts to ever stay with them because he was so good and such a renowned drummer and wonderful jazz musician at that time. They asked him if he wanted, come play with us, you know, let's just see what happens. Just try this thing out called the Rolling Stones. But once again, Charlie Watts passing away today at the age of 80. Now, speaking of the August 24th, now we can go to our daily almanac where our record high dates back to 1947, got all the way up to 102 degrees. Luckily, we'll be able to kind of dodge that number, but it's still going to be a scorcher outside as we take a live look as the heat coming off the pavement there at 7th and Range Line in Joplin. A very busy noon intersection on this Tuesday afternoon. Already feeling like it's 98 degrees. Now we're going to dive into our humidity and our wind here in just a little bit. The humidity is actually not too bad right now, but the wind is playing a key factor as it's coming in at a sustained 16 miles per hour. So these are actual temperatures. We're still sitting in 89s in Pittsburgh and Lamar. We're up to 92 in Chanute, and let's go 90 in Neosho. Miami and Grove are interesting because they were actually some of our lowest spots here this morning. They were hovering right at the 70 degree mark. So we've seen a 21, 22 degree increase from there as compared to probably about a 13, 14 degree increase in some of our warmer places pre-sunrise. And of course, we've got the heat advisory. Now I point out Miami and Grove, and you'll notice Ottawa and Delaware County are our lone two counties that are not part of the heat advisory. Now you can take that up with the National Weather Service coming out of Tulsa, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you no matter where you are in the 4 states today, it is going to be a scorcher as the advisories once again now last from South Dakota all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Now while our humidity hasn't been too bad, we really have seen an uptick in our wind, and we're going to gust up to 20 miles per hour out of the south-southwest later this afternoon. And so when you factor in, the humidity, just a little bit of it, but also the wind, we're talking about it feeling like it's in the mid-90s right now. And our peak heating hours really aren't until about 3 to 5 p.m. And that's when we'll get up there easily into triple digits, feeling about like in between 103 and 105. We do have a clear Skywatch storm tracker. A little cloud cover wouldn't hurt us at all, or little rain, sometimes that'll cool you down. Look at the severe thunderstorm risk map. Now, certainly, we don't want anything severe, but sometimes we'll at least get that little light green that'll be able to pop up around us, but not even that. We get carved out of everything with that low category ranging from Minnesota into portions of Wisconsin for later on this afternoon. Really not picking up too much of it right now. Anyway, as I mentioned, if you're going to be outside, let's run through it. You know the drill. Whole lot of sunscreen, whole lot of water. Try to take frequent breaks. Remember, never leave kids nor pets unattended in the back of a car. Also, too, take time to check on your neighbors, especially if they are elderly, when you get home from work or if you're on your lunch break, because we're a long way from being over. We can't even pick up some cloud cover overnight nor into Wednesday, and that's why that heat advisory is going to exist for the next 3 consecutive days. When we look at what we've got from the national perspective, there's actually not a whole lot of action, period. It is hot and it is dry to finish the month of August. Finally, Wednesday afternoon, we get some thunderstorm activity, but that's not only just for the deep southern portion of the United States. As you can tell, it makes a difference, though. Look at Raleigh and look at Atlanta compared to us. We're 10 degrees warmer than what they're going to be on Wednesday, and then we get to ride it on Thursday. Now, Tanya, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's what we were talking about, being able to pick up just a little bit of cloud cover. But it does make quite a bit of a difference, especially not only in what it feels like, but also allows us to lose that heat advisory that we've been running for the week.
All right, well, it is what it is. August is going to be hot. It's supposed to be hot, and it's hot.
Tis indeed. Tis indeed. I got a feeling we're going to have another jump up here in September, too.
Don't say that. All right. I'm ready for winter already. All right, thanks, Michael. We take this time to honor today's 4-state hero, Specialist John Tessman in the U.S. Army. The Baxter Springs native joined the D Battery, 1st Battalion, 7th Air Defense Artillery in 1976. Tessman worked as a heavy equipment mechanic until 1979. To Specialist John Tessman, we thank you, our 4-state hero. Want to make crepes for lunch but don't have a lot of time to spend? No worries. Today Howard shows us a shortcut method for fruit crepes in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Je m'appelle Henri. Today we're making crepes with a south of the border twist. Since these aren't truly French, I guess I can take off the beret. Confused? It'll all make sense once I show you. The challenge of making traditional French crepe lies in the batter. It can be tricky to get the consistency just so. However, with the crepes we're making today, we don't have to worry about that. You see, rather than making the batter from scratch, we dip flour tortillas in a mixture of eggs, milk, sugar, cinnamon, and vanilla. Once they're moist, onto the griddle or skillet they go. We brown them on both sides, which just takes minutes. And unlike authentic crepes, every one of these will turn out picture perfect. After all the tortillas have been dipped and browned, we fill them with berries before rolling them up. Top them with a dollop of whipped cream and a bit of powdered sugar, and done. There you have it, a fancy looking French crepe with a tasty shortcut twist. To get the recipe for what we call our shortcut fruit crepes, all you have to do is visit our website. You know, since they do look authentic, I think I'll wear the beret after all. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a raccourci, which in French means shortcut way, for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
Oui, oui. You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen online. Just go to our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at our 4 state market prices.
Already into the 90s here at the noon hour. Remember, it's going to end up about 97 this afternoon, feel about like 103 with the heat advisories that last all the way through Thursday.
All right, what do we have coming up tonight at 5?
Well, at 5, taking too many common pain-relieving drugs like ibuprofen can lead to stomach ulcers. We're going to tell you what you need to know in Health Watch. Plus, as students return to the classroom, school districts continue to use dashboards to keep track of COVID-19 cases, and we'll have details on a Performing Arts Award for Pittsburgh schools. Hope you join us for those stories and, of course, the latest on this heat wave, all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
All right, thank you, Dal. Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.